I think we got all the public we're gonna get. So would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we're gonna open up a public hearing. Site plan and conditional use applications to establish a registered marijuana caregiver retail store by renovating the existing building and adding a crushed stone parking area on site at 95 Biskie Road. The applicants are Danielle and Charles Simmons, DBA Above and Beyond Cannabis. That's the C2 zone. Are you the representative for that? Okay. We don't really have a lot of public except you. Would you like to make your presentation?
I would just briefly,
Okay.
if I can get it up.
Are you operating this presently?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's sharing her screen.
Okay. I can't get. There we go. Okay. So as you mentioned, the applicants are Danielle and Charles Simmons. They are doing business as Above and Beyond Cannabis. They have an existing store on Main Street that was approved by this board, I believe, back in 2020, and are operating under a license over there, but they are seeking site plan and conditional use approval in order to establish a registered marijuana caregiver retail store at 95 Biskie Road, which is on the corner of Heater and Biskie, as shown on the screen. And again, that's in the C2 zoning district, and it is map 1 lot 67. This is an excerpt of the site plan that shows the specific area, and I highlighted the building that they are proposing to renovate. This site is owned by Raymond Cole, who also has a storage unit sort of farther down on Heater Road that was approved by this board, I believe, as well, probably within the past 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yep. This is an excerpt of the project data. As you can see, where this is proposing to move into an existing structure, a lot of the dimensional standards in the land use ordinance are sort of not applicable here. But I did want to call out that the self-storage facility is located on this site, so it will end up being sort of a mixed use or multiple use site that is 10.45 acres. As far as unique issues, the Institute of Traffic Engineers estimates that there will be about 7 customer trips per day. I was surprised to find that they actually have marijuana dispensaries listed in their booklet from the traffic engineers. That was interesting. It gets really granular. And then the applicant has indicated that they have 2 full-time employees who sort of work separate shifts, and then a part-time employee who is there approximately 10 hours a week. Existing access to the site is from both Heater and Biskie Road, where site distances from Heater at least have been determined to be adequate. There was previously a takeout food business on this site, and the police chief at the time reviewed that conditional use permit and requested that primary access to the site be from Heater Road rather than having traffic enter and exit onto Biskie Road. I would recommend continuing with that requirement and have a drafted recommended condition number 11, which would reaffirm that requirement and require the applicant to communicate that with their patients. And then the applicant has also indicated that she'll be providing 6 on-site parking spaces for both her employees and customers. I wanted to bring up, there were previously from the existing site, which is located in, I guess you would call it sort of a strip mall area, that there have been concerns regarding air quality. I think a lot of those will be mitigated by this new site, considering that it is its own area, but the applicant has also indicated that they will be installing a ventilation and sterilization system within the building in order to mitigate any potential concerns. And then I just want to give a brief overview of the marijuana licensing process, since it sort of involves this part with you all, but then also will involve select board review and additional review by the fire, police, and criminal background checks for the applicants. The applicants are currently operating under a license at their current location, but a new license is required because the licenses run with the property address rather than the applicant themselves. So they'll be coming before the select board to get a revised license as well, or they'll be required to. I did also just want to note briefly that approval by the planning board does not require the select board to approve the medical marijuana license and does not preclude the select board from doing their own due diligence on the license application. Your role here is really on the land use matters in the ordinance and not any of the marijuana licensing piece, which has its own standards of review. I did want to note that the applicant has not requested any waivers as part of this application. I am suggesting 15 conditions, which are noted in the packet that has been posted on the town's website and are in my memo. I can run through these quickly, but I don't know that it's necessary. And then overall, my recommendation would be to approve the site plan and conditional use application of Danielle and Charles Simmons, dated through November 28th, 2022 for Above and Beyond Cannabis to be located at 95 Biskie Road with the noted conditions as I've drafted them. And I'm here to answer any questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Will the air purifying system be in place before you open? Can you come have a seat up here and just introduce yourself? Sorry.
Thank you.
My name is Danielle Simmons. Last time it was a lot different. It was a lot more relaxed, I would say. I don't know why, but so right now, all we have is purifying systems that we plug into the wall, and we have several of them. I think we have 7 total. And I plan on bringing them with us. I don't know. I mean, they approved that last time for the sanitation and everything, whether you guys will or not, I don't know.
Before or after the complaints?
Before, well,
So is it-
we've been putting them, I would have to go back to my records, but we've been adding them as we get complaints.
So I think the
Kind of.
concern I would have with that is what they're doing going to be adequate enough? If the board approved that prior to them opening last time and the complaint came in after they opened, clearly it wasn't enough. So are we going to have that same concern?
Yeah, I did want to note, I pulled the violations that the previous code enforcement officer, Stan Waltz, had issued. And actually, this is helpful. He noted in the letter, I believe that the odor is getting into the area, the neighboring store next to them by the use of the bathroom fan. As you have showed me, there is an open chassis above the ceiling where the fan exhausts to. The fan should exhaust to the outside. I suggest that the bathroom be vented to the outside or just to simply close off the bathroom fan to mitigate this problem.
And that was the only complaint by someone within the building, not somebody in the neighborhood.
Yeah, there were 2 complaints, one on August 26th and one on September 7th, and those were both from someone in the building.
Okay.
I also gotta say that the fact that going to a place that's not in any close proximity to any other
Correct.
habitation or even business is certainly a plus. I mean, they're a long way from literally anything.
And I didn't realize it was within the same building. Makes a lot of sense because I could get that in the same building. I thought these were outside
Yeah,
neighbors that were complaining maybe, and it wasn't going to change, but it sounds like adding these things up there.
I think it
nobody
did
else
help
within
a
the-
little bit. When was the last complaint?
This one was from September of 2021.
Yeah, so it must have helped a little bit, but like I said, I think we started with 3, now we have 7. We have a bunch of different ones now, charcoal ones and everything. And unfortunately, we are next to child development, so that is an unfortunate.
currently,
Yes.
yes. And then is the Coastal Kids the closest daycare, school type activity?
Yep, the Y also owns property, but it is, it's not built upon there. It's vacant land. It just happens to be owned by the YMCA. So the current like built out piece is Coastal Kids.
And they meet that by, what it look like 59 feet?
Yeah.
And then the security cameras that you're talking about installing, those will be in place operating before the business operates?
I have a system up right now that's through Seacoast. So it's like highly protected and I plan on bringing that one to our new facility. It's weird. Seacoast has contractors and only that contractor can take them down and put them up. So I bought another security system called Simple Safe that a lot of caregivers use and dispensaries in Portland and other surrounding areas. And I'll put that in place temporarily. So until we get the Seacoast one in, unfortunately, like I said, it's a whole box. He's the only one with a key, so he's coming down to check everything out on the 31st, and hopefully he can pull everything out, but I don't know when he's going to be able to install it. So I bought this second system.
And it'll be operational before you open business at the
Yes,
new
of
place.
course.
My question for the plumbing thing was, Jonathan, being a plumber, is something sitting that long, any concerns that there should be any type of testing done?
On the present septic system
Correct.
that's there,
Correct.
is there any upgrade being done to that septic system?
Not to the septic system itself. We are installing a bathroom.
Mm-hmm,
And we have a plumber coming tomorrow to check it over.
mm-hmm.
for
Looked like it was
Wednesday.
last used 2006-ish. And I'm guessing sitting dormant since then.
Yeah.
Should we be concerned of any failure of that? Or a way to inspect that could prove that it's okay to use?
It might be appropriate to adopt another condition of approval that the code enforcement officer will go out and inspect it. Or that you'll hire someone, you know, whichever would be fine with me, I think.
The issue, one of the things is, I'm not sure how old that septic system is. If that septic system was put in brand new, which it may have been, I don't think there was a septic system with that house.
Right, and I think,
And when they renovated that building, to the certain degree that they did not renovate it much, and Lori put that, you know, the takeout
Mhm.
place in there. I think Ray may have put a septic system in there, and if he
Yeah.
did, it's not all that old, and I wouldn't think it would be suspect.
That is true, and it was approved by the previous code enforcement officer in 2006.
Okay, so I believe that actually happened. But I don't think there was no septic system in that house originally, none.
Well, there's an outhouse on the plan.
right,
That's what the old lady used.
Yeah.
But to operate a restaurant in there, Ray would have had to do a system.
Mhm.
He would have had to, and it would have to be state inspected. In 2006, it would put it not, that's not an old system.
Okay.
We could put a condition in there that the code enforcement officer stops by and does take a look at it, but any failure would be due to Ray Cole too. You know,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I just think it would, I would be in favor of at least someone putting eyes on it, code enforcement officer, to make sure that it.
I'm good with that.
And what's your plan with the second driveway? Emergency use only? Is that gonna be blocked off so that people can't come and go there? My concern would that be the line of sight pulling out of there.
Isabel said that I could use it as wraparound. If that's not suggested, I don't have to. Right now, I don't know if any of you have been by there recently, but it is pretty flat. We've taken I have a picture actually, we've taken a lot of trees out.
Yeah, she's taking a lot of stuff down.
No, I drive by. it
We
twice a
both
day,
drive by there on a
Um,
regular basis.
But I'm just going,
Built that culvert and everything, and so the rocks is where the septic system is to kind of mark it out so people don't touch it. This is
the
the,
heater road.
yep,
Yep, and this is what you're going to use and come
For
in
the-
here. I'm talking about this entrance over here.
we did plan to use it as like an exit. So they could
So
wrap
according
around.
to number 11, that's what the chief was talking about not using.
That's the one that the chief provided.
Can I see it?
Yeah,
I
So,
thought he said not to use it as an entrance.
Is that an in and out or just a, could it be an exit? It's like some things that we've approved, you know. They're one or the other.
Mhm.
So if this was just primary and exit, is that gonna be an issue? Okay, I've been by 100 times myself. but-
right, right. I'm not sure. That hill between Heater Road and that driveway, they've taken some of it down. I'm just not sure if it would be an issue. To me, it would be safer to enter there and exit Heater Road. You have better line of sight versus coming out of that other one, but I mean, according to here, the primary access is gonna be off the Heater Road according to number 11.
that
And the
was
signage indicate it.
I can have signages.
Yeah, that indicate the heater road is the access.
Yeah.
So the heater road's a private road?
Correct.
Well, currently,
Yes,
the town is working to take over actually just past where this property
section
line
of it.
where the
ends.
town salt shed is, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
out to there.
Ray Cole owns a piece of property that actually owns the end of the heater road right there. So whatever he chooses to do with that, he can do.
Mhm.
We couldn't technically tell somebody that, private individual, if they could use that road if they didn't own it.
Mhm.
But he does own it. So. That would mean, if you follow that, using the heater road as the access. Minimize entering and exiting on the Biskie Road. You'd have to block that other driveway.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I asked, and it sounded like they already have plans to use that as one or the other. Exiting maybe all of
That
vehicles
was okay
by,
by Isabel. So that's what I was planning, yes,
Mhm.
but I can change.
It does
that.
exist.
no, I know that. I'm
And
just saying,
the sight lines are okay. I mean, they are. And there's not a lot of traffic involved in that.
that if that's the case, then we should take that out because it contradicts number 11.
I think probably might be smart to take that out.
Okay.
Are you good with that?
Yep, it was the recommendation of the prior chief, so
Yeah, I
think it's fine.
think it's fine too. It's an existing road entrance. Been there for years, They want to use it.
They have done nothing but improve it.
Yeah.
As far
Yeah.
as seeing once you get out there, just that I just didn't see how it went with number 11 if we're.
Well, you've come up with some pretty good stuff so far. You got any more?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do read these.
I know you do.
Explain to me, is there only doors in this building? I saw it on the front. I haven't walked around the building, so forgive me, but are there only the front and back door or front and side door?
Yes, so initially I was gonna block off one of the doors, but then they recommended we don't do that because we need to enter and exit.
Mhm.
So we took the door from behind the building and moved it to the side.
Mhm.
So now the entrance, and then we don't plan on having customers use that door. It's just gonna be like,
In case of emergency, you have to get
Right.
out or whatever,
so they'll come in and
but no windows. There's only two ways to get into that building is those two doors.
there's those two windows, they're like little castle windows at the top.
Right, but as far as,
But other than that, I took all the windows out.
okay. The ongoing things that you talk about, if we approve that as ongoing. Is is the code enforcement officer going to go out and follow up and make sure these things are done? Some of these are prior to them getting a building permit.
Yep.
Where does that fall into getting checked on and checked off, if you will?
Yep, so some of it is prior to submitting or prior to issuing a building permit. That's sort of the things like establishing fencing, and that would need to be inspected prior to submitting. So either the code officer or myself would go out to the site. In terms of like providing, paperwork for the file, that would be myself handling that. And then in terms of the ongoing issues, such as condition 15 regarding the exterior renovations, that would be both the code enforcement officer and myself checking on that as a response to building permits that are submitted or general inspections of the site. It's basically to reaffirm an existing requirement and make it clear that that's the expectation.
Anything else? I'm actually gonna close. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? There we go. I would have forgot to do it if I didn't do it then. I think we're good. Has anybody got any other questions?
When do you plan on opening out there?
We have to be approved here, and then obviously there's things that we have to do before we can open, be approved by the code enforcer, I think the fire chief and the police chief. I think they have to do that before we open, and then I also have to have a state inspector come down. So I have no set date, kind of when it all gets done. Supposedly the new landlord is taken over on January 1st at the new building. So I need to be completely out of there. So I'm probably going to be closed for a couple weeks. I'm assuming at least a week in January. So probably the second or third week of January.
And do you think it's feasible to have the inside plumbing done within the time allotted on here?
Yes, we have him coming Wednesday and he's just gonna access it. We have all the stuff. He just gotta do it.
I'd put the 12 months in that we talked about.
Yeah, no,
But-
my dad was like, no, we're not making them go outside.
Sounds good.
No other violations or complaints other than the two that Isabel read off to us at this current place?
Yeah, that's all that I know of.
Mhm.
The fencing that you're talking about, is that apply still now that there's no tree?
Any of the existing tree, I think it might be easier for me to come out to the site and maybe make a determination, but any trees that are left, yeah, it would be like stakes or something to delineate that you are not going to be touching those areas.
If we put a fence up around there, that's gonna block out the whole road.
Yeah, this would be like temporary fencing during construction. It seems like
Okay,
you've already done a
okay.
lot of the work, so
Okay. I was like,
yeah.
that's scary to me to block out the whole.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys good?
Yeah, I'm all set.
No questions? Any reason we can't move on this tonight?
If you were going to make a motion, it would involve removing condition number 11 and adding additional condition number, I guess it would technically be removing condition number 11, renumbering the remaining conditions and adding an additional condition that the code enforcement officer will inspect the septic system to ensure that it will be sufficient.
That's what
for the
I got.
proposed use.
Anybody want to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion that we find the application complete and that we, following the conditions of approval with the removal of number 11,
Number 11.
renumbering the conditions, adding in that the code enforcement officer must inspect and approve the existing septic system prior to issuing a building permit.
Do I have a second?
And second.
And can second it. All those in favor? All those opposed? When are you gonna go see the selectmen? Have you been to see the selectmen yet? She has to be approved by them also, correct?
That's the second step after
Right.
getting land use approval.
All right. Anybody else got any questions at all? Nothing?
No.
We want to vote to approve this? Or disapprove it?
I have no other issues.
All right, anybody want to make a motion? Oh, yo.
Okay,
Do you want me to suggest a motion?
why don't you suggest?
It would be something along the lines of, I would move to approve this application with the findings of fact and conditions of approval as amended this evening.
That sounds good to me. There you go,
Okay.
Jenny.
Good job, Jenny.
Exactly,
She was educated in this, you know,
yeah.
remember that. Wanna do it?
Okay, so I make a motion to accept this proposal with the findings and facts
And Conditions
and conditions
as noted
as noted
this evening.
this evening.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. You're off the hot seat.
Okay,
So good luck.
thank you. So you'll be in touch with me?
Yep, I'll
Okay.
be in touch about.
Why don't you
next
pitch it back?
Sure. Thank you, guys.
You keep that for a memory.
steps. You too.
All right. So,
Now we're on to the,
yep, review the meeting minutes of November 7th. Oh, no, planning board remote meeting policy. That was
Mhm.
something you wanted to talk about. I did see that in it also. You want to
Yeah.
explain that?
Yep, so we talked about this a little bit last meeting where
Yep.
there was a couple of illnesses. And we have not adopted a remote meeting policy for the board to allow people to participate remotely. This is not subject to the public, so the public can participate remotely anytime we are holding a hybrid meeting, such as we're doing now. But planning board members, by the change in state statute in July of last year, cannot participate remotely unless the body has adopted a remote meeting policy. So I drafted something up for you that's fairly short and sweet, but I think gets to the point that we're trying to make, that in the event of a natural disaster or illness or some other type of emergency, an individual member may participate remotely by Zoom or by teleconferencing, whichever way the majority of the board decides to go. Basically, in order to do that, we need to make everything available to the public online and denote on the agenda how the public can participate remotely so that they can hear everything that's being said and see any exhibits. We already do a lot of this, so it's just sort of codifying current practice to allow planning board members to participate in the event of an emergency, and those are defined in the draft policy.
so is this, very similar to what the selectmen already adopted?
Yeah.
Basically?
Yeah.
Is there any difference or is it?
I have not, the general gist is the same. I haven't seen their exact language, but the general idea of allowing people to participate remotely is.
Because I know in the selectmen, they were talking about, should someone who's on vacation or not, not in the state for a couple months, should they be allowed to?
If I was on vacation, I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah,
Well, I remember when Robin did, the selectmen, Robin,
Lloyd Parker did it one time, I believe, while I was on vacation.
so I don't know.
yeah, so as it's written currently, it's illness or other physical condition, natural disaster or man-made disaster, or a temporary absence from the town of Damascotta that causes the board member to face significant difficulties traveling to and attending the meeting in person.
Oh, so that might cover it.
That would cover
That
it.
would cover it if you so
Yeah.
choose to while you was on vacation.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah.
So does this have to go through town attorneys to make sure, or is this a copy from somebody that's already using it?
This is
We're good?
boilerplate, kind
This
of,
is,
isn't it?
this is boilerplate.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. This has been reviewed by This is something that I took from Bernstein Sure, who do like municipal attorney work, that it's basically something that they provided to members.
Mhm.
No, I personally think it's something that we should have. You know, we get into a situation where one or two of us aren't able to vote on something for either conflict or not here. And, you know, perfect example is last week, if we had it, we could have had two members that were able to do that otherwise didn't.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that having the restrictions as tight as they are of what qualifies for that is good. Because I just think because it's 32 degrees and snowing that we're not gonna want to drive out, we're gonna do Zoom tonight, that.
Yeah,
So could I make a motion that we adopt this?
This is technically a public hearing.
Oh, this is a hearing for the policy?
Yes, we do have to hold a public hearing in
Oh,
order
okay.
to adopt the policy.
All right.
I assume nobody.
well, once we close the public hearing, you can make a
Okay.
motion.
Yep.
Let's open it first.
We never opened our, okay,
We closed the public hearing on the 95 Biscuit Road, but
Mhm.
I guess officially we should open it, but let's call it open. So, I mean, you got any other questions? Yeah, you could have done it while you were out there with the Rona. You could have come in on Zoom. Or you could have laid in bed and ignored it.
Which I did.
Yeah, I'm glad you
In the
did,
end.
Bill. Oh, anyway, I guess, anybody want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, now, you want to make a motion to accept this?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the remote and hybrid meeting policy as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you.
Can we talk about something related to it, or is this inappropriate?
If it's in regards to a certain project, I wouldn't think so. If it's a question about the policy or participating generally, then yes.
When is it? When should we talk about whether Anne can participate?
Yep, I
in,
I
with
think
that
we talked about
specific-
this briefly at the end of the last meeting before we adjourned. And I said it might be best practice for her not to participate. In general, it would be the feeling of the board on that. And if you did decide to participate in a future meeting where something was discussed and the public hearing was closed, you would need to provide information for the record that you reviewed the video recording of the meeting
I
and the
did
minutes.
watch the whole 3 hours.
And then the planning board, it would be best practice for you all to vote to allow Anne to participate or vote to promote an alternate in her place.
But would we do that now or right?
You should do that during the public hearing or during the public meeting where any project is being discussed.
Okay,
We ran into that with Blue Haven, where we had to go back and we all had to get the information about the projects down here on Hodgson Street. And then we had to swear to that we've read them and we could bring up speakers. It happened kind of in transition of
Yeah, it
planning
did.
board members coming on. So
Yep.
we've had to do that before, but
I reviewed the Maine Municipal Association has a planning board manual that has a lot of information kind of about these kind of process issues. So that's where this is coming from, is direct from that manual.
yeah, so I think we certainly need to do that because it certainly could come back to us if we have a project and a member isn't there but vote on it, the applicant could say that they weren't up to speed enough to make that decision. So
Yeah, that it's best practice to say it within the meeting with the applicants and members of the public present. And then if the applicant, the other thing I should say is if the applicants say disagree that you can participate, that could be valid, but that's why it's important for the planning board to make a motion that they have found that you have brought yourself up to speed in your case.
Okay, well, you guys decide, whatever.
I guess I just wanted to mention it at this meeting so that in case you wanted to bring yourself, you did bring yourself up to speed, but so it would be an option for the next meeting.
So all we have to do, Jonathan, is say that member X has been brought up to speed and agrees to, is there something that we have to do other than just say it? Do they have to sign something saying that they've,
Oh, an affidavit?
Yeah.
Like an affidavit would be kind of going above and beyond. We could do that if you guys found it appropriate or wanted Anne to swear something to that, but I think also just stating it,
I think we have to.
I think.
oh, no, I don't know. I'm just, I just don't want us to say, yes, we've said it and then find out a year from now or 6 months from now that wasn't.
Yeah.
I'd much rather dot all the i's and
Oh,
cross the
that-
t's
that
now
wasn't
than,
enough.
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Do it.
Hopefully it doesn't happen that often, but I just think we should do it the same way every time we do it.
Yeah.
And that have as least amount of loopholes as we can get in it to start with.
Have you guys you just said you guys have been through a process where you signed affidavits before that you brought yourselves up to speed?
Yeah, if you look at, was it,
I don't think we signed affidavits.
I don't think they signed
it
affidavit.
wasn't, Stepping Stones, I think that's the
Yeah,
project
but
that it was.
I don't think we signed affidavits on that. We all stated in an open meeting that, we had received the information that we've gone and reviewed it, but I don't recall signing any affidavit to that effect.
Boy, I can't remember either way. I know that we had to go through and I know there was a whole big deal and the attorneys said that we had to read the stuff and
Yeah.
say that we did. I thought we did, but maybe we didn't, but
At the most recent, at the planning board training that I went to, they suggested signing an affidavit. But that's because there were attorneys presenting,
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think, well, especially when you have sort of like a really big project, like the one that we're involved with,
Hmm.
it might be
Yeah,
a
all
good
right.
idea to just
Does this have to be
sign something. Doesn't
signed by a notary also?
an affidavit have to be notarized?
Let me review that and get back to you. I think that the
Chris.
answer is yes.
I do too. If
Yeah.
you want to do it.
Yeah.
You've
It's
got to have
something
a
that
notary
has
sign it.
to be Notary, right?
Are you a notary?
No, but Rebecca is, I think.
Okay. Well, we probably ought to.
Well, I am. What if I could sign it?
Okay.
I don't think that works.
Oh, well.
That'd be a loophole right there.
Yeah, sure would. Well,
So-
probably, because I'd rather keep Ann involved in this, at least have her input. It might be nice to have some kind of an affidavit.
I don't want anyone to be able to challenge that. You know what I mean?
so, and nothing saying that if one of those forms was provided that prior to that meeting, that piece of paper couldn't be taken care of at the town hall, right? And just has to do it in front of the notary.
She should ideally, we're using you as an example, but anyone should do that in a public meeting in front of those
So
participating,
the notary would have to be at the meeting.
Yeah. which is fine, but
All right, like I say, can you come up with a canned affidavit?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, and can we get somebody from town staff to be here at that meeting prior to?
Yeah.
Is that gonna be an issue?
I don't think that will be an issue. I'm volunteering them for a lot, but I don't think that would be an issue.
okay.
Okay.
Good point. So we're off of the remote meeting. Last thing we've got, we're good with the affidavit and all that for Ann. Last thing we got is review of the meeting minutes from November 7th, 2022. You guys go through all that?
I do.
They're pretty long.
Poor Linda wasn't even here for the meeting. She had to watch the video.
Well. But does anybody have any, want to make any omissions, any corrections?
It seemed pretty accurate to me.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Meanwhile, you haven't made a motion. Yeah. it's your
Who's
turn.
counting here anyway? I move that we accept the minutes of the November meeting as written.
I second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Not bad.
I have one item that was previously approved. I don't know, actually, this is more of a question. I don't know how you were handling signing findings of fact and notices of decision. From what I can find, there was an instance at some point where Tony Dater was having just the chair sign it, and then it was some or all members, and then it was just Bob sending a notice of decision via email. I think it's probably best practice to have the entire board sign findings of fact and notice of decision. So I have one that was approved. This is the minor subdivision amendment for Clippership subdivision from November 7th and the findings of fact that were adopted at that meeting. I don't know how you want to handle signing it.
Can I see it?
Well, like
Did you
you just,
send that to us?
Yeah, this was the one from the packet from November 7th.
like you described, we've done it all kinds of ways, but I do remember signing some, and I remember just Jonathan signing some, and
I mean, we can all sign it, doesn't matter. You all can. I mean, there's no reason we can't. You want us to sign this one?
Yeah, I left some lines for you on the
I saw
back
that.
page.
Okay. All right.
and I abstained from voting, so I won't.
Yep, you don't sign it.
Okay, next.
And then
And then.
Well, thank you.
I am drafting some proposed amendments to the site plan review ordinance based on some feedback that we've gotten from public hearings that we've had recently. Mostly about, well, I guess I'll just say that I'm hoping to add a provision for requiring neighborhood meetings prior to applications being submitted for
Excellent.
pre-application by
That's
the
a good
planning
start.
board.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm also taking a look at some of our performance standards. First off, because some of them are frankly quite broad, and I think we could do a lot to shore them up for future applications. And then some of them, like changes in state statute, make them a little bit, I guess, well, they are stricter than state statute in some cases, or not as strict as state statute in other cases. So I think it's probably best practice to discuss if there's value in having them be stricter, because I think in some places there probably is. And then the ones that are not as strict as state statutes, we should probably bring up to state statutes, because the stricter requirement would weigh out. So I'm pursuing some amendments, and I'll bring that to you all. At this point, I'm anticipating for the February meeting for a workshop discussion. But just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to change.
Mhm.
I mean, this has been a real eye opener.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of things that really, and we can't talk about it, so. I'll just say there's a lot of things that need to change.
Yeah, so I think some of the things, anyway, I'm bringing this up for discussion, and just to let you know that it's coming down the pike. I'm anticipating at this point, like I said, probably February for a workshop discussion on this. I think it might be something that takes us a month or two to continue to work through, because I know that I have some questions just based on, is there still value in this? Where did this provision come from? Things like that. But just to let you know that it's
Mhm.
coming.
Is that something that we can have hard copy?
Yeah.
Please, instead of
Mhm.
electronic.
So can we have a public workshop meeting on this outside of a regular planning board meeting, or does this all have to happen during planning board meetings?
I think you can hold like a special planning board meeting, it just has to be advertised if there's gonna be a quorum of members meeting, that we have to advertise that
And what it's about.
and what it's
Mhm.
about. Yep.
How come you want to do it different, Jane, in case we don't have time to do it, or?
We'll see what she comes up with,
Mhm.
but it would just be nice to look at these ordinances as a group without other business,
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And to have it open to the public, if people want to weigh in on it or whatever.
Yeah. Well, obviously these meetings are open to the public, but I think your point is that you want it to be,
Well, you can let people in.
yeah,
They don't have
like a
to
better
talk.
public engagement
Yeah.
process. Okay,
Exactly. It would invite more public engagement.
sure.
So this neighborhood meeting requirement, would that be before the sketch plan or at the sketch? plan? Before the sketch plan.
Ideally, how I would envision it is, I think one of the things that I hear the most from developers is, well, first of all, it surprises me every time I have a project come before a planning board where the applicants have not talked to neighbors beforehand, frankly. And I think that it's important to require that or note that that's an expectation of this board. And maybe it's not for every project. Like, for example, our project tonight probably didn't need to have a neighborhood meeting beforehand,
No,
but for a lot of larger projects or a lot of projects generally, it probably is a good practice to require. And
And that's what Newcastle has that, right?
Newcastle, yeah, so Newcastle adopted a new core zoning code in 2021 that requires neighborhood meetings for certain projects. And honestly, sort of the feeling of, from what I understand it, the feeling of the planning board and the comp plan committee was that they didn't want to get to a planning board public hearing and that be the first time that an application was being heard by neighbors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So frankly, if I'm a developer, that's kind of the first thing I'm doing, but I guess it's because I've been in this field and maybe it's not common, maybe it's not obvious to a lot of people, but so I think we need to actually require it for certain projects, and we can kind of discuss, the parameters of those projects. Maybe we match it up to like we have additional standards for projects that are more than 7,500 square feet, or additional standards for large projects.
And I think we got to talk about that, because you talk about not the project tonight. If that had been in a different location, that could have very well been a topic for one of
Right.
those meetings. So I think we got to look. Or maybe we have it for all projects and it can be waived if it I don't know. I just don't want to leave what we think is a smaller project out, because had that been
Right.
100 feet down the road on that same road, you got a bigger issue.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's what we're going to have to be a little bit creative about, is like considering what projects and what locations are important to have like neighborhood meetings. The other thing that I just wanted to mention was, I think that the neighborhood meeting and the way that I've sort of started drafting it is, this is really intended to be like before you spend most money on engineering. Like, yes, we need a concept plan to present, but you shouldn't have already spent, thousands of dollars on an engineered plan. This is really something that could be like handwritten or in very early stages. so that people are getting their input in at the very beginning before money is spent.
So are those held in front of the planning board or a separate altogether?
I would actually recommend that they're not held in front of the planning board, that they are just like sort of a more informal neighborhood, true neighborhood meeting kind of feel. And that the applicants are just required to submit, maybe it's minutes of the meeting or a sign-in sheet or evidence that they noticed their neighborhood meeting or whatever.
So the applicant would be responsible for
Yeah.
for holding this meeting?
Yeah.
See, that's kind of, that's.
So the other piece to
Wow.
that, Isabel, is say, we have a large project coming in, it's gonna be, a conflict with a certain area of town. What do we have to stand on if they provide us the minutes from that and the neighborhood doesn't want it because they don't want it? We still don't have a leg to stand on if the entire neighborhood hates it, but they meet the ordinance,
Well, I think that part,
right?
I don't have a good answer for that at this point, because I think that really comes down to amending the whole ordinance.
Correct.
And I think my sort of vision for our comprehensive plan process is that we'd go through this comp plan process and then we would be going through a whole zoning rewrite. That's what I've now done. That's what I did when I was in Saco, was I came in at the very tail end of their comp plan update. And then we spent 2.5 years rewriting their entire zoning ordinance to match up with the comp plan and to be a better framework, frankly. I don't know that scrap it all is the answer here. I think we're still at the beginning of this discussion, but I think I think if you feel that you can't, if a whole neighborhood, if you feel like you can't address genuine problems with applications because of conflicts in the ordinance, I think that's a problem that should be addressed.
Because you can only, how we spent a lot of time looking at the comp plan, the
Mhm.
last hearing. It really doesn't matter. All that matters is what's in the ordinance.
Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately, that is what matters.
Well, and in theory, I think we said it last time, your ordinances should be driven by your comp plan.
They have to be driven by the
Right.
comp plan. Yeah.
So it starts with the comp plan. The ordinances are based off in that, or.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
And that's the hard to say no, it doesn't meet it, if right in the recommendation is that it applies with it aligns with the comprehensive plan, therefore it meets the ordinance. How can you say, no, you can't do it?
What's happening?
Correct.
Thank you. So I think more to come on that. I think it's going to be a continued discussion as we sort of pursue amendments, and probably subdivision needs the same thing, but we haven't had a full test of subdivision yet. So maybe we can pursue that sort of in tandem so that we can get out ahead of anything. Planning board trainings. MMA puts on a variety of planning board trainings. I think once a quarter. Jenny just attended one and kind of alluded to that.
I loved it.
If you are,
Was it the rules one?
yeah,
Was it?
yeah.
It was
It was very,
Zoom.
that one, they're very good.
It was really
I did
good.
one too. They are good.
So if you haven't ever attended, or maybe it's been a few years since you attended, there's another one coming up in February. The town will pay for you to go. We have money in the budget. So let me know if you're interested.
Do you know the date?
Not off the top of my head, but I'll send it out in an
Okay.
email.
Do we have anything else in January?
We may end up having one application. It hasn't been deemed complete yet, but I'm anticipating that it will be deemed complete probably by the end of the week. So. Depends if they can get me their stuff in time. And that's all from me.
Anybody else? Want to make a motion to go home and have dinner?
So moved.
Don't have a second.
What do we have?
All those in favor? Thank you.